Hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about stuff, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about. Don't forget to leave a like on the video. Yes, leaving a like is a free and easy way to support the channel that you love so much, question mark. I think we are reaching the border of generalized cryptocurrency insanity. Some of the things that I'm going to say in this video are going to trigger a lot of you. And then I know a lot of you saying, I don't get triggered. Well, get ready, because this is going to throw a lot of people for a loop. Whatever the reason might be, something has changed this year. There's a huge sentiment that crypto and the market and everything that we're experiencing is about to hit stratospheric levels. No. But like, really though, we have heard from analysts, companies, banks, the whole shebang, all been talking about Bitcoin's prices going here, Ether's going to do this. We're foreseeing a $137 XRP. You've been here. I understand the optimism in the space, but at some point it ends up being like, what is actually happening? So we recently, and this almost never happens, price predictions within this space were kind of relegated to like us. Everyday normal people talking about where prices could go. People would write articles. Then we started having on-chain analytical companies talking about movements of coins and money and where they thought prices could go. And it almost feels like our numbers were too low, which is, so listen, a lot of the higher ups, the well-known people in the space, the numbers they're dropping, they're talking about where they foresee crypto prices going, it makes me believe that we know nothing. We get news every single day of companies buying, countries buying, mining, and the whole, you got it. And then we get numbers like $250,000 Bitcoin, or we get like $8,000 Ether. And then we start hearing these people talk. If you didn't see the co-creator of Ethereum, he literally, Joseph Lubin, he literally said, from this point right now, Ethereum is going to do 100x in price. And I was like, what? Like, what in the world is happening? This one's even more intenselier. And it makes sense, but it's also like, how are you, where are you getting these numbers from? If you do not know, the idea of cool down. The idea of a $1 million Bitcoin has to all but do with the getting rid of / no longer using of the US dollar. That's kind of at the base of it. You need trillions of dollars to not flow into real estate, into treasury bonds, bills, stocks. It has to go into Bitcoin in order for Bitcoin to get to $1 million. This right here kind of implies what we've heard before from Bitcoin maximalists. But this one kind of implies that everything is about to hit the fan. Like, okay. His name is Jack Mallers. If you don't know him, he is one of like the omni Bitcoin maximalists. Like, he doesn't like Bitcoin. He like loves Bitcoin. Him, Jack Dorsey, it's a small handful of billionaires who believe in Bitcoin, but they their thought process is that Bitcoin is going to be the only coin. Not that there will be others. It's that Bitcoin is literally going to like T-Rex over them, like stomp all over them, and then only Bitcoin will be next. There's two things that we have to actually discuss here. One is 21 Capital, and the other one is his number. Jack Mallers thinks similar to Joseph Lubin. Joseph Lubin said Ethereum is going to 100x in price from here. Jack Mallers says that Bitcoin is going to grow to a $500 trillion market cap. That all but insinuates a 250x in price from here, for those of you who weren't actually calculating. If you don't know 21 Capital, they are a brand new company. That's why you probably don't know about them. They appeared in the summertime. So, you know how we have MicroStrategy and MetaPlanet and the others? 21 Capital is basically a company where they want to do all of that and then some. So MicroStrategy, they buy up Bitcoin, then they hold it. MetaPlanet, they're trying to get away from fiat currencies and the Japanese yen. So they're, Bitcoin strategy, that kind of thing. 21 Capital is creating a company that is going to create derivatives and other things from their company that exclusively revolve around and use Bitcoin. Their goal is to make as much money as possible for their clients and for themselves. And all of that money will be used to buy Bitcoin essentially infinitely. The term that they used was BPS, not something per second. It was Bitcoin per share. Their idea is they will only forever buy Bitcoin and make sure that anyone holding their stock will forever become richer in Bitcoin terms, as they only plan on increasing their Bitcoin per share per actual stock by means through the actual company. When we heard about them this summer, most companies, they start with 100 Bitcoin, 338 Bitcoin. No, 21 Capital announced that they were starting with 42,000 Bitcoin from the get-go. That was just like, let's just go buy 42,000 Bitcoin because we have nothing better to do with our time. It's actually an interesting interview that Jack Mallers gave where he basically discussed, he said, it's cool that we have crypto exchanges. It's awesome that we have MicroStrategies. But he's expecting 21 Capital to basically go over all of them, as he foresees when his company begins to release these products and these other things that investors can use to make more money. The company makes more money and they get extremely rich off of these products and off of the Bitcoin. That basically similar to MicroStrategy, how people began to copy them. Basically, other companies would also begin to copy 21 Capital as well. The interestingest, not a word, part of a lot of this has been that these companies kind of believe that they can all get to 1% of all the Bitcoin at the exact same time if you miss that. When I say that there's less and less Bitcoin on exchanges, it's because it is. I'm not making it up. Surprise. When I say that there's not going to be any Bitcoin for normal people, it's because there's not going to be. Surprise! The other part has to do with these companies are all trying individually to gain, gather, accumulate tens of thousands, in some cases hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin. This is also one of them. He says that as this happens, as Bitcoin captures more value and we see more and more people flooding into this market, that's what I was talking about earlier. And I will say this from, last thought. I will say this from this perspective. I don't not think that Bitcoin can't get to $500 trillion. I'm going to try and, if I remember, I'll try and explain that as well. The issue ends up being, for me, a lot of times in this space, Years ago, we heard that Bitcoin was going to 10K, and I was like, do it. Go to 10K. We heard that Bitcoin was going to go to 100,000. We got to 100,000, and no one seemed to really care. So now we're constantly being told forwarder and forwarder and forwarder for prices and stuff like that. If we could get to $1 million first, that'd be grand. That'd be wonderful. If we could get to like, I would love a $12,000 Ether. That'd be pretty great. I understand the optimism of being like, hey, we're gonna 200x in price. If we could 5x, that'd also be kind of great. So once again, I think a lot of this has to do with not only conviction, but also like conversations these people are having behind the scenes. If you didn't see years ago, I mean, he still exists. This guy called Plan B within the space. He's quite popular for his Bitcoin price predictions. He said, like, anyway, I'm completely getting off tangent. The point of the matter is that his charts, Plan B, would show Bitcoin going up. And then at some point, the chart would kind of like stop. You know, chart's only going for so long. And people would always ask him, why does the chart stop at 2032? And one time he was like, well, it looks a little bit crazy. Because we were at like a $12,000 Bitcoin. And his chart showed by 2028, 2029, it was at $1 million. People are like, that's crazy. It's not going to get to $1 million. We get to 120,000. $1 million doesn't seem that insane. Then if you look at further for a lot of these charts, if they continue on, it shows like a $20-30 million Bitcoin. We have to be in or nearby to make it seem more realistic. 100,000 makes $1 million seem believable. $1 million makes a $13 million Bitcoin seem believable. So 500 trillion. $1 million Bitcoin implies that the system that we currently know is broken. Like it is not like, oh, inflation's bad. No, it means like you are walking around with like a bed sheet full of dollars that are worth dust. Like it's like mega inflation levels. A $10 million Bitcoin implies that no one trusts fiat anymore, and we're kind of just working on a crypto or a Bitcoin standard. A $500 trillion market cap for Bitcoin, it basically implies that everything is priced in Bitcoin, even debt. That's a conversation from years ago. You know how, you got to pay your car note, you owe this person, any government, whatever institution, like it's not, there's no longer a dollar. It's simply not a thing. Like mortgages are paid back in Satoshis. We walk around being like, oh, did you see that TV yet? It was only 430 sats. Like that's the idea of a $500 trillion Bitcoin. So I can see it. I told you before, the reason why Bitcoin and crypto are going to succeed is because the rich people want it to succeed. And I know if that doesn't make sense to you, you might need to read the news or read history a little bit more. The rich have kind of like cornered Bitcoin and they want it. Like it is their thing that they're going to nurture and integrate into everything. The oddest part is that normal people don't know and don't care. I don't know if I've ever told you this before. This is the trick for kind of all of it. You buy up real estate when it's really low, and then when prices go up high again, everybody wants it. You buy up other assets. You buy up Apple stock when people were calling it Microsoft stock. 23 cents. Nobody wants it. Apple becomes a $3 trillion company. Suddenly everyone's like, wow, Apple products are amazing. If you don't know, in the 80s and early 90s, people didn't like Apple. That's how it used to be. For this, I think it's going to be the exact same thing. There was a lot of, remember all the pushback we used to get years ago in the cryptocurrency space by people who weren't in crypto. The higher prices go, the more I have people asking me, do you know anything about this? Have you heard about this? Should I be getting some? That kind of thing. We are entering a very precarious position in history where these people are going to own all the crypto. If we get to a $500 trillion market cap for Bitcoin, it means that everything is priced in Satoshis and in Bitcoin. And the only people who are going to have any are these people and very small slivers of the rest of the actual world. I can't figure out how another way to get more people, like normal people, into it, because if Wall Street owns all the homes, everyone has to become a renter. If they own all the land, you can't own the land. If they own all the crypto, remember that phrase, and it's making more sense more and more as time goes on. What was it? You will own nothing and you will be happy. It sounded crazy a couple years ago when I heard it. The more I think about it, the more I think it's going to have to be a thing, or rather, the world will be forced into that position. I even know, last thought, I have some friends now who are like renting. So like they have TVs in their houses or whatever, like they're renting their beds, they're renting their TV. And I'm like, why? Well, I'm renting this place. I'm planning on moving. So I'm going to have to, instead of taking my stuff with me, I can just rent it for a while. I think people are being forced into this kind of mindset where you like owning something. Like in 1300s, 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, and early 1800s, that people didn't own homes, right? Like rich people owned property and they would let you live on their land. Like the UK still has something similar to this. It's not it's called leasehold, where basically like you're leasing the land from the kingdom. So you can never really own it. Of course, there's freehold as well. Got it. But the general idea is like, well, you get used to the idea of, well, they own it. I'm simply renting it from them. And that's where I think the next 38 generations are going to be. Even this idea of owning crypto. When I tell you sometimes I know that people within crypto aren't paying attention, I find it kind of weird. If we've come this far and it seems like we're just still at the beginning and things are only going to get pricier, if you hear that everything is going to be automated, everything's going to be AI, remember the guy from that AI company who was like, I'm expecting 20% of all jobs to be gone by 2030. And I was like, what? Normal people hear that and they go, whatever. I hear that and it makes me double down on my investments, because I'm like, if jobs disappear, if everything is automated, if AI takes over, my idea would then be, I need to get as much crypto and passive income from other things as humanly possible. If Ethereum offers that, why aren't normal people buying ethers? Because they're paying attention to other things. The idea of, remember, Bitcoin staking, Bitcoin passive income. If the only way to make money in the future, if jobs aren't really a thing and people are forced to kind of give universal basic income because there's literally no other option, universal basic income is going to give you $400 or $500 a month. It's not giving you $6,000 per person per month. Bare minimum. Who are the people who thrive on the other side? It's the people who own some Bitcoin at a $500 trillion market cap, who are staking it, who are getting 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,000 per month in passive income from their crypto that they're staking, because jobs don't really exist. Do you see the future that's coming? Do you see the direction that we're heading in, the way that things are? No matter how much technology we get, no matter how many times people, and I say warn you about what's going on. We know that things are jobs are disappearing. We know that people can't buy homes and afford homes now. People born now, they're never going to own anything unless you buy something and you give it to them. Buying, this is why we talk about fractional digital ownership on a blockchain. It seems super believable to be able to afford 1/100th of a home on a blockchain, because that's all that people are going to be able to do. When I first started, anyway, whatever. I'm noticing, I'll give it to you this way. I'm noticing now, because I invest in real estate, and I invest in like investment properties that I can rent out. I see the devaluation of my money and how much more expensive things are getting. I've always been getting like studios, but they were pretty sizable, some 1 bedrooms. Now I'm like just getting studios because it's like, okay, that's all that I can kind of afford. And then I look at and I was chatting with a friend about the prices of like apartments and stuff like that. And we were talking, and they were like, most people are making 28,000 a year, 32,000 a year, maybe 45,000. You have rent, you have clothes, food, heat, electricity. All that's gone. The other half goes to taxes. What money do you have to buy property? So as we keep seeing crypto picking up, the world is going to continue to be in the hands of the people who own the real estate and who own the land and who own the crypto. That's what I find perplexing, that people in this space don't see that. Prices go down by 2-3%. People flee. People leave the market. No. I'll wait till the dip happens more. And it's like, what are you talking about? You are running out of time. There's literally not that much time left. You need to be doing everything in your power to make as much money as possible to make sure that you are not shut out. Have you seen all these countries around the world are building these new cities like for the wealthy? Why do you think that's happening now? These like enclaves in mountains in the middle of nowhere. They all have proposals for them. Why do you think that's happening? What happens when you have robots who can clean toilets, who can clean the house, who can clean the bathroom? Surprise, that's already a thing. You have the one on the floor. You have the ones who clean the windows. Have you seen, maybe not on YouTube, there's like videos of these robots who can like clean the bathrooms. Well, who's going to cook the food? Have you seen the mechanical arms that like move and like they put food like in the food together, and they also lift up the plates and they put it into the sink? And that's what we have now. Imagine 10 to 15 years. Imagine everything is automated. I heard that argument before from someone. She was like, what are rich people going to do without us? And I was like, there's a weird misconception that rich people need normal people. You will be forced to rent. You want to sleep outside? Cool. Pay what that rent is. That's how the system is moving. You won't have a choice. What do you talk like the value that rich people already have their own economy. If you didn't know that, look into it. There's so many rich people that they've created their own economy. There are clothing brands. You know how like we have Louis Vuitton, Prada, Gucci. That's like lower luxury for those of you who don't know. Higher luxury, like, you know, like the shirts that Zuckerberg wears, like these t-shirts, they're like $850. Like people go, who could afford that? The millions of millionaires and billionaires on the planet. They literally have their own economy. And then you go, well, we have to work in supermarkets. Supermarkets can be automated. Cars can drive themselves. If blockchain takes over, and this is a self-perpetuating system, that money just kind of flowing around back and forth through these chains amongst rich people, the passive income pays for itself. Think about this. I tried explaining it to her, and she almost refused, but I understand. I would have been cynical years ago, but I understand that to the average common person, you don't want to admit that there's going to be a system that doesn't need you anymore. The argument's always been, who's going to clean your house? Robots. Who's going to cook your food? Robots. Who's going to deliver your food? You can have it be made at home. You can have a private chef if you want. 90% of jobs will be gone. That chef will still have their job as long as you want the novelty of having a human make your food. Otherwise, drone it. Get your food delivered. Have it made for you. Who's going to drive you? Self-driving cars. What else is there? You walk into a store, you go into the supermarket, they can be automated. Everything around us, we're at the literal point in history where everything can be automated. Writing books, making movies, TV shows. I give it 7 years. AI will be able to do all of this. Who dareth disagree? Imagine any other sector that we have. AI will be able to do it. Automation will be able to do it. Have you been to, I walked into a McDonald's, this was a couple weeks ago. There's screens everywhere. Of course, you walk up to the screen, you boop, 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 you order on them. There was like a little like robot that like, zzz, it brings your order to your table. All the other fast food places right now, they have these huge robotic arms who are like chopping up the stuff and making the food. We live in the future. So like I said, I understand from the perspective of not wanting to admit to yourself that change is here, that something has to be done, that you need to take some kind of a course of action. When I keep saying all this stuff that's happening with crypto is not random, it's not weird, it's haphazard. They know that the world is changing. They know that the system that they created of fiat is completely crumbling and falling apart. It doesn't work anymore. It's inflated itself to crazy levels. The US dollar lost 99% of its value to Bitcoin in 10 years. 10 years. In 10 years. In the US dollar, the world reserve currency, 99% of its value to Bitcoin in a decade. What happens in the next 15 to 20 years? Do we have a dollar? Do we only have Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and 5 other coins that we're managing and talking about? Where does that leave everyone else? When you hear me say we need more normal people in this market, you need to do something. You need to make money. You need to get rich. You need to find a way. The old system is gone. Last idea, I read something before about like old jobs that disappeared, like in the 1800s and early 1900s. And every time this happened, there was a huge like social upheaval because people couldn't imagine. When boats used to dock, like big, like Titanic size boats used to dock, they used to have like 100 men tying all these things down because you needed it. Now, you need maybe 3 men. It's kind of automated in a certain way. Elevators. Remember the elevators that like you had to like close them yourself, and it was a guy like bing, bing, bing who had to like whatever. Like the job was elevator man to bring you up and down. Before we had alarm clocks, there were people who used to have this isn't a joke. Used to have a long stick. And they had to know the addresses of all the people. You would tell them what time you want to be woken up, and they would knock on your window with a long stick. This isn't a joke. All these jobs, of course, disappeared because of like simple inventions. We're at the point where these inventions aren't simple anymore. You literally don't need humans to do a whole bunch of these jobs. And this is 2025. We're not talking about the innovations that we have in 2038. If you get a chance as well, this will definitely throw you for a loop. Look up something, and I spoke about this before last year. It's something called CRISPR, CRIPSR, clustered, regularly interspaced, short palindromic repeats. It's gene editing software. You know what we have in 2025? We have gene editing software. You know what they can do now? They can reverse aging on animals. It's believed in the next couple of years, they're going to be able to stop aging and reverse aging for humans. You know who's going to benefit the most from that? The people who will have Bitcoin and Ethereum at a $500 trillion market cap. Imagine being rich forever. None of this is random. This is all happening for a reason. What happens if Bitcoin and crypto are the new system? What happens when CRISPR is readily available to everyone on the planet? You go to your doctor, I need a top up. Imagine being rich and living forever. Imagine like literally not having to, worry about anything. I understand sometimes it can be frightening or you don't want to think about it. This is something we've talked about thousands of times. This idea of invest, put your money to work, follow the money, look at where things are going. You gotta stay on point. You gotta understand. And then people in crypto, If we have if cycles are, are not finished, if we have a bear market and prices go down, people leave this market. And then we get news every other month, huge amounts of Bitcoin, huge amounts of Ether, huge amounts of XRP were bought up by mysterious wallets. We get news that 90-something% of all the Bitcoin is held in like very rich wallets. How did that happen? Everyone left, except for the rich people. We're in the future. We're here right now. Things are only going to get crazier. You need to make sure that you are part of this and you're not standing on the sidelines. In 15, 20 years, don't tell your kids and grandkids, oh yeah, I remember when I could have. No. Be the people who are like, we're rich because of this. We never have to worry again. None of you ever have to work. We made generational wealth. It's sitting in front of you right now. This projection of a $500 trillion market cap indicates if you make the right investments, you will never, ever have to work again. Your kids will not know the word job. They will have heard it somewhere in school. Your great grandkids will look back and go, that was crazy that he did that. I can't have imagined being put in that situation, and he did it. He made us rich for life. We've been through this. We've been here. I've been here with you since 2016. Every cycle, it's the same over and over and over and over. If September and October are meant to be these glorious months for prices, if prices are meant to go up in December, be a part of it. If cryptocurrency prices in the future are going to 20, 30, 40, 250x in the next decade, don't be on the sidelines. Why are you letting these rich people take everything again? Being the only people who are richer than everyone else. Yes. Like really though. It's frustrating over and over and over and over and over every single cycle. The world has changed and it's only going to get crazier from here. Make sure that you are on the rich winning side. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. Geez Louise, guys, get it together. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.